Ready? As soon as Terry's ready, we'll get started.
What's the first one there, Dan? If you have to look.
The first one is the Peter J. Lampy.
Lampy?
Hello. All right, are we ready, Terry?
Yep.
We'll call a meeting to order of the Wright County Planning Commission for November 12th. First item on the agenda will be to approve the meeting minutes of October 15th. Do I have a motion for approve the meeting minutes?
Charlie will move the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken.
Yes.
I don't believe I received the minutes, so I will be abstaining from voting.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor signify.
This is Jan. I vote aye.
Burrell votes aye.
Belger abstains.
Smallburger's aye.
And Dan Mall is aye. Okay, motion carries. First item on the agenda is Peter Lampy, and he is at the table. Do you want to give your name for the record?
Peter Lampy.
All right. Sean, do you want to take it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this rezoning was recommended to the county board. The county board approved the rezoning to ag residential. The information required for the subdivision has been submitted, the survey and the soil work. So everything is showing to meet the standards and have a buildable site. So the issue before you is the conditional use.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Nope, that was good.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public, Sean, here to comment?
I have not had anybody request to call in on this item.
All right. Do we have any discussion from the board?
That is what we're considering a conditional use or a subdivision.
It's a conditional use permit for the subdivision.
Got it. And I do not have a proposed motion, so somebody else may have.
All right. Does somebody else want to make a motion?
This is Malberg, I'll move. I'd like to make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for a two-lot unplatted subdivision, existing home to remain AG, in accord with the survey completed by Lindgren Land Surveying, dated 11/4/2020, project number 03720R, with the following conditions. Access permits will need to be obtained if required by the township before construction on the new lot. 2, for feedlot regulations, the new AR parcel will be allowed 1/2 animal unit per and will not be allowed to reach 10 animal units, and any building that houses animals will need to be 100 feet from property lines. And 3, the new AR lot cannot be re-subdivided until the lakeshore portion of the property is compliant for more than the current configuration.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Burrell will second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye on a roll call.
Culver's aye.
Jan or Charlie can't,
We're all vote aye, but Dan, it would help if you tell us which end of the table you want us to go from.
I guess wherever, we started out with Jan first, Charlie, Ken, Pat. That's how you voted last time. Okay. Ken?
Motor votes aye.
All right. Mal votes aye. Motion carries. So,
Good to go.
thank you. All right, we will get set with our next one for Kyle Asherall. Give us a minute and we'll get the people in here.
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, this item was continued for a site inspection. The property is zoned agriculture. It's in the land use plan for agriculture. The request is for a conditional use permit for the motocross track. I would just like to read you the proposed details so you have a frame of reference. At this time, the applicant is requesting to have 5 motocross coach trainer camps, anywhere from 8 to 15 kids per session, each session being 5 days, with session times from approximately 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and those 5 sessions to be from March 15th to November 15th, depending on weather. Staff's request is whatever is approved or not approved, but the planning commission gives us direction to be able to put that into a formal motion for your review at the next meeting.
Okay. Is there anyone from the, Kyle, is there anything you want to add first?
No, I think that we've gone over everything with the last meeting and the site visit.
Okay. Sean, is there anyone from the public that you have on?
Yes, there is some requests to attend this meeting. I see a few of them. I don't know the best manner. I guess ask for people to speak up.
Yeah, I guess I would have asked you, Sean, being you're at that portion of it, if you can just have them say their piece and we'll go from there.
Yeah, all the names are together, so I'll do it by what I have alphabetical order, my first name at least. Is there a Andrew or the Rosenquist online?
Sandy here.
Yeah, so you have the floor to speak to the request.
Okay, my biggest beef with it is the 5 sessions of 5 days. I'm not objecting to a couple sessions of 5 days. I think it's probably a good program for the kids, but I'm certainly opposed to 25 days motorbikes on the land immediately south. And my wife is on conference calls virtually every day with C-suite level people, so the noise pollution is our concern. We don't object to the dirt bikes and the program, just the amount of it and the noise pollution.
All right, thank you. Sean, do you have someone else?
Yes, and if you feel like somebody's been skipped over, wait till I go through the list and we'll leave it open again.
Okay.
Is there a Darren Grangraw?
I'm here, I'm just listening, I don't have any comments this time around.
Okay, thank you, Darren. I'm looking for the next person here. Is there a Kate Berger? Did you call in for this item?
Yeah, Karina Berger, yeah.
Yeah, Karina, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm Kyle's immediate neighbor to the north. And we sent this in writing to, similar to what Andy just said, we supported a permit for 3 training sessions of 5 days per session, but 5 seems like a lot of days. We requested also those days be limited to weekdays between 10 and 4, which I think you guys already maybe addressed in the motion there. And we wanted a limit on the number of participants, which I think you already also addressed. But yeah, we understand that people want to enjoy their property and do fun things, but there's a balance, and the 5 sessions is a little bit out of balance, and we'd like to see it reduced. Thank you.
I will go to the next person, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Yes. Roger and Janet Keski.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can, okay. Yes, I have a few things here to discuss. One, we were on the on-site inspection, and they were asking for 5 sessions, spring, summer, and fall, which is what they say, and I don't see how this is possible. I only see that it's possible in the summer because children are at school, and they do not get out of school until the full week of the first part of June is fulfilled. And then they can also start earlier. And students or teenagers, they'll start sports, and they might start the 3rd and 4th week of August. Well, that leaves 9 weeks. And if you have anything other or any bigger type of adults that you're thinking of having, you're going to have much, much bigger bikes. You're going to have older people taking the instructions. So if you're thinking about children and teenagers, it can only happen during the summer. And while on inspection, you could see that track is directly in the southwest or east corner, right across from the lake. And it creates an incredible megaphone for everybody that's around. And it's not just the neighbors themselves that will be suffering. It'll be the fishermen on the lake and those that are trying to enjoy the park. Those visitors as well will not be able to tolerate it. The dirt bikes that were presented were very small. They were very small children or very young children. And that's another reason why I think that reality speaks that it'll only be done in the summer. And to have these 5 sessions would absolutely destroy our summer. And that many bikes, 15, can you imagine if he opens it up to older, matured individuals, the size of the bikes and the scope of the noise will be absolutely deafening. And second thing is that I presented a petition and I wrote it up the way it is stated in the Wright County Planning Commission paper delivered to us. And those that answered and signed the petition do not want to follow through on these 5 days and these 5 weeks. Some of the people are counting on this petition because they never got a letter. And this is their way of saying, this is how we feel. Some told us they work during the day, they can't get on today. So they gladly signed the letter. And then there were those, like I said, they didn't get a letter in the first place, but yet they dealt with the noise on the occasions that it was in process. So I hope you take into consideration those people, and I probably could have gotten more names and signatures against this commercial permit. However, we were heavily involved in our farming harvest at this time, and then also we got stopped in the storm the other night. But we did get a significant number of those that are very sincere about not wanting this commercial license. And then also, I'd like to just make an example of noise and the travel of noise, because I did state there that we went as far out as 3/4 of 1 mile. Let's keep talking on this one. And I did this for the sake of the signature of the Flovins. They never received a letter, and yet they are on the far end of Mud Lake, and they have dogs, and they have kennels, they have a business in Cokato, and they are very affected by the noise coming off of this track. And he never got a letter, so you'll find his signature on here, and I'm sort of speaking for the effect of this track and this license that they absolutely do not want. So another thought would be, in comparison, would be like the train in Cokato. On a quiet night, I can hear that train, the people can hear that train. It's not that bad that we can't sleep through it, but if the train comes through in the day, I have a friend that's 3 miles, she can actually hear the train shaking. And that's how sound travels. I'm 7 miles from Cokato, and on a quiet night, I can hear that train coming through. So I'd like you to think seriously what the sound of this track does to the neighborhood. And we're a neighborhood of a lot of housing here going on, that this is definitely detrimental to everybody's happiness around here. I'm completed my thought. Thank you. You have something to say, Roger?
That's all I don't know too much more to say. So I'll think about it. If I think of something more, I'll ask for it at the end.
All right, thank you. Sean, do we have someone else?
I'm at the bottom of my list, Mr. Chair, so if someone else has called in to speak to the Kyle Asheville request, if you could please make a comment.
All right, it doesn't sound like anybody else is calling in, Sean?
Doesn't sound like it.
All right, we'll move on from here then. Kyle, would you like to have any comments? That's what you've already heard before we go to the board.
sounds like it could somewhat be resolved with less than 5 sessions, 2 to 3. Sounds like everybody would be fine enough with that. And then, as far as the people that are at work that couldn't attend the meeting, they won't be at home. They'll be at work when this is happening. They won't be home to hear any of it.
Okay.
I guess that's about it.
All right. Can we start with the board members here? Who would like to start with any comments?
Could I comment, please, on what Kyle just said?
Let's go through the board members and we'll see how it goes. We've gotten a good idea of how you feel about it.
Well, the guys that are at work, their families are at home.
Yep.
So they don't hear it, but they're not happy that their families hear it.
Yep. Well, thank you for that. And would somebody like to start with the board, please?
What are you asking, Dan?
Does anybody on the board here have a comment?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Jan.
This is Jan. Well, I just believe that this is an inappropriate use for the noise level and so on out there in the county, and I think that, well, I'm just known that I've studied this, and I am very, very strong in my feeling that this is not an appropriate conditional use to issue, regardless of lessening the time or changing the hours of operation. It's just too noisy and it's too disruptive. In our land use plan, I don't believe that it meets the criteria of a commercial recreational use. It's just too noisy, and he is not in any situation at all to provide any way of mitigating the noise. It's just a noisy business. And so I just am violently opposed to granting this permit.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Anyone else? Charlie?
Yeah, and I've mentioned this a million times ever since I've been on the board, is we live out in the country, and I said if people want peace and quiet, go back to Plymouth. You know, I said we're an active lot out in the country. We drive four-wheelers, we have snowmobiles, big tractors, we run chainsaws, we do all kinds of things that make noise. And I think the Asheville request here, by keeping the hours, you know, from 10 o'clock till 4, you know, I said, I live in the country myself, and I said, for the last 2 weeks, I've had four-wheel drive tractors with 8,000 gallons of manure back every 3 minutes. I had one drive by. But it's just something that I kind of, as a dairy farmer, I kind of like my milk, I kind of like my cheese, so I'm willing to put up with it. It lasted for, I said 2 weeks, probably 10 days. Also then, they put liquid manure on. And if the wind comes from that field, my gosh, you know, we run inside and shut the windows. But again, it dries up in 4 or 5 days. So this here is something that, the service that it does for these young kids that want to get into this sport, I'm supportive of it. I just think that people need to be a little more tolerant, you know, need to be accepting of things. I live right near the railroad tracks. I mean, the train comes by all the time. I think out here that they don't have enough things that bother them if something like this is going to be the big red flag.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Ken?
Can I speak again?
No. Right now we're up here with the board, so no, not now. Ken?
Hello?
That's Jan?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay.
It's Ken.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, who you're asking?
You. Do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I would note that the township approved the applicant's petition for the 5 sessions, 5 times a summer, for a total of 25 days, if my math is correct. However, I would still love to see this gentleman pursue this activity, but on a more limited basis. Perhaps what we could look at is maybe 3 sessions during the summer. Hours, let's say, from 9 to 4. And something a little bit more limited. I mean, we can't cut this guy off completely simply because he has his own family riding out there. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe he has a right to run out there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day if he wishes. I think what he's asking for is some controlled measure of activity out there, which may be a benefit. So I would support the petition. However, in a more limited capacity, let's say 3 sessions during the summer hours, 9 or 10 in the morning till 4 p.m. at night. And maybe even look at some measure of buffers or something to control either the sight and or the sound impacts on the neighborhood. So, Mr. Chair, that's all I've got. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you, Ken. Pat?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm struggling with this one a little bit. I'm probably, landing somewhere between Jan and Ken on this. I look to our conditional use permit criteria, and to approve, we need to make a finding that the use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted. And so as I see the request before us, I do think that 5 sessions of 5 days is not something that I would support. I think that the points are well taken, that this is most likely to happen during the summer, that's a limited window, and if we're talking about up to 25 days of this activity, you're having a fairly constant presence during that period of time. And so from where I sit, certainly limiting the number of sessions is required in order for me to be able to support making that finding. And the hours, I think we're talking 10 to 4, I think is what I saw. I'm also curious as to the weekday versus weekend debate a little bit. I hear comments from, I think it was Mr. Rosenquist, talking about working from home these days. That's a phenomenon that's going to be out there for a while. And so the idea that if we just put it all into the weekdays, we can alleviate the concern because nobody's home is it's not accurate because people are home who don't work during the week. And in addition, there are now people working from home during the week. And so I do think we have to have limited sessions. I'm not sure what to do with limitations on days. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. I guess my question for you, Kyle, you've heard somewhat of the board is coming from. Do you have any thoughts as to less sessions?
Yeah.
Or changes thereof or self-imposed,
Ideally,
Mr. Chair, I can't understand who's talking.
that
Could they identify themselves?
Jan, that was the chair, myself, asking the applicant if he had any comments upon what was being talked about by the board.
Can't understand what he's saying.
He's just starting to talk.
ideally, we would have 3. There's 3 big races a summer, and we like to get ready before them, typically the week before. So that would be the ideal situation, to get 3 of them. And they do happen during the week, sport races on the weekends, so there won't be any weekend sessions for training out there. Personal use, possibly, but we're racing also. So that would be ideal to get ready for the 3 races. would have 3 of them, but
Okay.
I guess that's,
So was everybody from the board able to hear that? Ideally, he would like to have the 3 sessions to get ready for the 3 bigger races.
Well, Mr. Chair, I cannot hear anything that's going on now. I have lost the train of thought about how do we have races and sessions? I don't understand the difference between races and sessions.
the races are not on my property, they're elsewhere.
Did you hear that, Jan?
The races would not be on his property, they would be elsewhere. Okay, thank you. Now I understand that.
Any other comments from the board here?
Yes, I have another comment. When we are talking about the use of the property, there's a difference between the private use and the commercial use, only in the sense that the commercial use is for financial gain. And so where I understand that Mr. Asheville has every right in the world to have his family use the property as he wishes. This is a commercial enterprise that he's engaging in here, and it puts it all into a different category altogether. And in response to Mr. Burrell's statement about the railroads going by and making noise, and the nerve spreader going up and down the road, those all have a benefit to society in general. Those are uses that deliver goods and services to other places. And this use is strictly for a limited use involving Mr. Asheville and his property. So I appreciate the fact that he's willing to reduce the number of hours, but I do think that we need to understand that this is a completely different operation. I live in the country too, and I have a dog that barks, but I keep it under control, and I have other things that maybe might create a nuisance, but I can't think of any right now, but I probably do, and if my neighbors would say, cut it out, Jan, I would stop. And by issuing this permit, we're endorsing this type of operation on a property in the midst of a neighborhood that I don't think needs to be saturated with the noise levels that this activity would create. So my basic feeling is still the same, that this is just too noisy of a place, an activity to have in a area now where we have people working from home and where we have school children that we don't know what's going to be happening in the future. If they'll have to do online learning all the time for the next year or so. There's just so many things that we don't know. Maybe we'll have summer school to supplement the learning of our young people. I just think that this is not the right thing to do. So I'm not going to change my mind. I will vote no.
All right, thank you, Jan. Sean, I have a question for you for clarification. On this type of track out there, he can use it. He's got a couple of boys, and he can use it 7 days a week, whatever, correct? And if they had a couple of friends over, there's nothing stopping than 4 or 5 bikes out there. They got a couple of buddies and the family members. They can basically ride in the country at any time, correct? There's no ordinance or anything against that?
For personal use, correct.
Correct. So if we allow them to do it 3 times, or 3 different 5-day sessions, and he limits it and tries to watch some of the other things, the neighborhood actually will be probably quieter than every day a week, and the boys having a couple, 2, 3 buddies over riding. I mean, we have to find a balance here, and I think by him coming in here and asking for a permit so that we know or the county knows what's going on out there. On his part is a very admirable thing to come in here and ask for a commercial permit. And if he's willing to drop down to 3 sessions, there's several of these letters are saying that 5 is too many, 3 is, would be somewhat acceptable. Some of these letters in here have stated that Mr. Ashwell, when there's a graduation or there's something else going on in the community, if, he's been decent and, not ridden on those weekends or on that day or whatever. I mean, it seems like Mr. Ashwell has been getting along with the neighbors. He hasn't been creating problems. So, by doing something like this as a permitted, where the county has actually some teeth to tell them, this is what you can do or can't do, is probably more beneficial to the neighborhood than just saying, no, you can't do it, and there's no reason the boys can't have 2, 3, 4 guys over, and Kyle sits out there and coaches them a little bit, because it's still personal, and they can be going every day all summer long then. So, is there anyone else from the board that would like to comment? Is there anybody on the board that would like to make a motion or give staff direction to form a motion for next week?
Charlie, I would support, I think what you're saying there is very, very accurate. We're down now to 15 days out of the entire year, 3 5-day sessions, and I don't think that puts an undue hardship on anyone in the area, so I would support that. I don't have a proposed motion to support it.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, staff's recommendation in the staff report was that we continue this until our December meeting and allow staff to come up with some conditions. We weren't sure as to the parameters you wanted, so we didn't have a proposed motion adopted, but staff, I think instead of just going forward today and trying to come up with stuff, would like to be given an opportunity to come up with some conditions that would work, given the statements on having 3 sessions of 5 days for a total of 15 per year of commercial riding operations.
I mean, you have to poll the rest of the board, but I would be supportive of that.
Along that line, Greg, do we need to have a motion to close the public comment period?
Are we able to speak yet?
I'm talking to the attorney right now, please. Greg, do you have a comment on that?
Recommend that as part of your motion to continue that yes, you close the public comment portion of the meeting. If Roger and Janet, if you want a little more comment from them, that's up to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else on the board here have a comment?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken. I think in any proposed motion, and I agree with Mr. Burrell and perhaps your comments as well about limiting the number of sessions. In a proposed motion, I would like to see some statement in there that no races or competition will occur on the property. And yes, I understand that the applicant has stated such, but I would like that included in any consideration of the proposed motion. And just as a side note as well, and this doesn't have to be in a proposed motion, but should this come under consideration in our December meeting, I would simply ask the petitioner, and it sounds as though he's been a good neighbor talking to the folks around there, but if the motion does come up again, and it does happen to pass, I would ask that Mr. Ashwell make contact with the neighbors in advance of any sessions that may occur during the summer, just in the event that they may be conflicting with weddings, outdoor weddings, or graduations or such. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ken. Anyone else from the board?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken again. I didn't read my notes completely here, but I would also like to have some measure of review or inspection by the township board during the time at which this proposed activity may occur according to our decision next month. So in any event, simply some degree of inspection or approval or review by the township.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Jan?
Mr. Chair? Ms. Jan, I would like to say that should this come back before us, that there be a condition there that this conditional use would be renewable every year, and that that be included in any motion that would be presented back to us at the next meeting.
Now,
And then you would support it, Jan?
I didn't say that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, I would not want that included then, because we're not gonna get another vote by doing it anyway.
okay, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Jan.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that, simply because we do require conditional use renewals on many conditional uses, and it just seems to me that this is just an added protection to the neighbors to be able to have a chance to speak to this issue again.
Okay. Either way, for the board, however the motion is drafted, we can add in or take out at that time when we come to it, whichever way it goes. Is there any other comments from the board? If not, I'll go back to the public, but I want it to be brief because we're getting plenty long on this subject here. Sean, do you want to let one of them open?
Okay. I just meant you haven't had anything to eat today. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
were you asking for, is there any additional public comment?
Yes, I'm asking for additional public comment, but I would like to keep it brief.
So if somebody would like to speak from the public one more time on this item.
Okay. Can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah, well, my name's Roger Keski, and you talked about a buffer zone. What kind of a buffer zone are you thinking about? Somebody mentioned that. And as the bikes have gone so far, we haven't said too much about it, but there've been quite a number of bikes on weekends occasionally too. And what I was interested in is the fact that when you make something commercial over private, it kind of changes the tune. We're certainly going to get that training session, but we're already having a lot of bikes running there, sometimes on weekends, a lot of them. And when you mentioned the fact that maybe he could, in fact, I told him that he should probably talk to the neighbors before he decided to even try for this, but that's what it meant. That was my thought.
All right, thank you.
You want to say something?
Yeah, this is Janet Kefke, and, can you hear me?
Yep.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Can hear you.
Okay, thank you. It was mentioned that he talked to neighbors. He may have talked to maybe 2 neighbors that live right next door to him that are his good buddies. But I will tell you, he took this upon himself to commercialize this track without asking or any of the neighbors. So that is complete falsehood that he shared this information with his neighborhood. If he shared it with his couple buddies, maybe, but he did not ask the neighbors, how are you faring with this track? How do you feel if I were to get some more people in here and organize it? What kind of things are happening at your house with this noise? He never asked anybody anything. And if it sounds good to say that he did, it is a complete falsehood. this through.
All right,
The people are very angry about that,
all right.
that they were not consulted.
Yep, thank you for that comment. Is there anyone else, Sean, in the public?
Andy Rosenquist, if you're available.
Yep, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to sign a resolution to this. He's my neighbor today, and he'll be my neighbor after this is resolved. So, I do not object to 3 sessions. I think that should be a max. It will affect real estate values. I'm a licensed real estate agent, and it will clearly affect real estate values. And I love the idea of some kind of buffer zone. If Kyle and Mr. Ash would be interested in planting trees for sight and sound barriers, I think that would be very beneficial. And I think Mr. Burrell's comments on railroad tracks and farmers versus rec is very short-sighted. I believe the railroad tracks were probably there when you purchased your home. This was not here when I started building my home.
All right,
So I guess I will leave it with that. I would like to see a friendly resolution to it, though. Thank you.
all right, thank you. Sean, do we have anybody else that would like to comment?
Yes, this is Katharina Berger. And I agree with Andy on wanting a friendly resolution, and I just wanted to mention that I appreciate some of the comments that the board members made. I don't know if there has to be an annual renewal on the permit for all time, but I think it would be great if you put that in at least for a year or two, as we're venturing into something new, that there'd be, you know, if it's not working out, that there's a plan to revisit it. I also really appreciate the board member who said that he would like to have somebody come out during one of these sessions and experience the impact yourself. I think that's great too. So I appreciate the thought that you're putting into it. We do support the 3 sessions, 3 5-day sessions, and we do hope to maintain good relationships with all the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
This is Janet Keskey. Did you know Mr.
you-
Rose said about our property values going down?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Jan?
You've been able to speak, and we have to keep moving on with this meeting. We understand you don't approve.
This is costing the neighbors plenty, and he's making money, and we're losing it financially.
All right,
It's not fair.
thank you. All right, is there any other board members that would like to comment, or does somebody want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I think the motion would be in order to have staff, I guess just from here, the discussion would be to have staff draft findings, proposed motion for approval based on the discussion and comments of the board.
And also with that motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion, Burrell.
And to also close public comment, Charlie? Okay, I have a motion made and seconded.
Who is the second? Who seconded?
Jan, did you?
I can't understand what you're saying, Dan.
Mr. Chair, can I summarize?
Yes, please.
Mr. Kreiser, Jan, has recommended that the motion read to continue the item to the next meeting, for staff to create a motion consistent with today's discussion, specifically the 3 sessions of 5 days and the other things that have been discussed. And then Dan asked the motion maker, Charlie, if that includes to close the public meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ken.
Mr. Chair, there is a motion on the floor by Mr. Burrell. I will second that motion.
All right, thank you, Ken. We have a motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion from the board? If there's no other discussion,
I have a question.
go ahead, Jan.
Is this motion to suggest approval then of this, or is it just to come back with the findings of our attorney, that gives us an opportunity to vote yes or no, up or down, on this when it comes back to us? I think that should be made perfectly clear to everybody in the audience that the motion that you're preparing, Mr. Kaiser, is one that we have an opportunity to vote on again, and also to clarify whether or not there will be a chance for the public to speak to us at that time when it comes back to the floor.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Thompson, the motion on the table right now would not be a final motion. It would be up to the board to discuss it further when staff comes back with the proposed motion at the December meeting. And my understanding is the motion right now currently includes the provision that the public hearing would be closed to any further oral and written comments. So no further comment would be permitted from the public, either orally or in written format.
I have a question. Could that be changed so that they would have an opportunity to speak at the next meeting?
Now would be the time to change it, Commissioner Thompson. Once the meeting's closed, it's closed. Once the meeting's closed, the public hearing is closed. So if you don't have that included in the motion, now would be the time for the board to discuss whether or not it wants that provision included or excluded in the motion on the table.
Well, I think that we should amend the directive then to include that the public hearing can continue at the next meeting.
All right, are you making that amended motion? Jan?
If you're talking to me, Dan, I can't understand you. Just like I hear your voice loud, but it's not clear.
Okay.
Sean,
can you relay to her? Is she making that as a amended motion?
Quick question. Yeah, just a quick question. Mr. Chair, Greg, should we make a motion on closing the public hearing or not specific to that motion and have a motion to continue it for a motion? Sean, it's up to the board how I'd like to proceed here, I guess. If the board wants to close the public comment, we most certainly can. That's our normal. They want to leave it open to carry. Yeah, right. That's our normal protocol. When we close a public meeting, we do it specific to that action. That's correct.
So could we continue this?
We have a motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Charlie.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Correct.
Unless somebody is going to make an amendment, we need to vote on that motion.
Correct. And
Well, I'd like to make that as an amendment then.
okay. Jan is amending the motion to keep public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Yes, I want to keep the public hearing open.
Yes, Jan, I am asking for a second. Do I have a second for a second time?
Walberg will second that.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded to continue to keep the public hearing portion open. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of amending the motion by roll call signify aye. Jan?
Who are you calling for?
Jan?
Jan.
Oh, well, I would make a motion to approve continuing the meeting for discussion.
So you're voting yes. Sean, can you get her to understand?
Jan, so your motion to amend the motion to not close the public hearing got a second by Pat.
Yes.
So now they're voting on changing the motion to remove closing the public hearing. So you're the first one to vote
Yes, well, I would vote for that motion.
Thank you.
Charlie,
Who did?
Charlie, this is painful. Sean, can you get him to hear?
Who are you at now, Dan?
I'm trying to, I cannot hear Charlie.
Charlie voted no.
Okay, Ken,
There's a Ken or a Pat.
Ken or Pat?
Felger votes no.
Pat?
Who voted yes?
Sean, can you hear Pat?
Albert voted yes.
All right, we have a 2-2. Mal votes no. Motion fails. So we have the motion back on the floor of,
Anybody do your mic that's not talking in a public meeting, please?
so we are back to the original motion that Charlie made. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of Charlie's motion signify by saying aye by roll call. Sean, do you want to call them out? They seem to hear you better.
Yes. If you're up, Jan, for a vote.
No,
Pat? Ken?
Felger votes yes.
Charlie?
We can't be in public there.
That's everyone, Dan, but you.
Okay, I didn't hear Charlie and I did not hear Pat.
Sorry, they both said yes.
Okay, and Mal votes yes. So we'll continue this until the December meeting for a motion to be drafted by staff. And the public hearing is closed. Motion carries. Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks.
That's it. Say, gonna get 3 things.
All right, number 3 on the agenda is Joe Bolant, and we will clean the table here and get him in here.
Chair, the request is to continue the item until the December 10th meeting.
All right, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Felger.
Go ahead.
Jan?
yes, yes, I vote yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Charlie? That was 4 aye votes, Dan.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Who was the second?
Who was our second? Sean?
Jan.
Okay, thank you. Number 4 on the agenda will be Wayne and Lori Steffens, and we will call them in here. Okay. You think if you lifted that up and put it up here, it would maybe be? All right, Sean, do you want to take it? They've given their names to Terry, so you can take it from there.
We ready, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Yes. The property's in Silver Creek Township. It's currently zoned R2 agriculture and a small piece R1. It's in the land use plan for residential. This is probably the best exhibit to look at. An existing portion of the property zoned R2 is in the top area. And they're wanting to make the lot bigger, both to be bigger and meet our performance standards. So they're asking for a portion of the ag zoning be rezoned R2 to match that next to it. And then that'll be one lot. And then they'll leave the remainder of the property agriculture, won't be repairing, leave it agriculture that has the existing house on it.
Okay. Is there anything more you'd like to add to that?
That's already here, so I don't
No,
know.
no, no,
That's what you're asking
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, Mr. Chair, I got the pointer up now. The existing R2 zoning, the area proposed to go to R2 zoning, so this can be combined into one larger lot and meet the standards. And the remainder, which already has a house on it, to remain agriculture.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public called in, Sean?
I don't believe so.
All right. So that brings us here to the board. Anyone have any comments? Jan?
Do you have any comments, Jan?
No.
Pat, any comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Charlie?
No comment either.
Ken?
Mr. Chair, this is a question directed towards Sean. Now, parcel A as depicted there, is that what is in existence today, those particular boundaries? The existing home will remain ag. Now, there's no lot line change or rezoning to occur on that piece, is that correct?
Well, it's other than it's going to be smaller, so a portion will be added.
Okay, so let me get this straight then. The portion with the home on it currently
is currently agriculture, as is this portion of the property.
Okay, is that one ID number then, one ownership, or what is the story?
Yes, one ownership and two different, I don't have, two different PID.
Okay, so in essence then, they are, what, purchasing property to the north to add on to that newer?
and it's already been purchased.
It's in the family or the same party, but adjusting
Okay.
that portion.
So merely because of the current zoning situation is why they're coming before us then, is that correct?
Correct, to match up the zoning of the north path and to get rid of a small odd R1 piece that does nobody good being zoned R1, and to not touch the
Exactly.
non-riparian existing house parcel with the ag.
More or less to clean it up and add one more buildable lot, is that correct?
More or less, and to make that lot larger in size too.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any other comment from the board, or is somebody prepared to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I guess I would be prepared to make that motion. However, I don't have anything before me on that. If Sean would be so kind as to perhaps read it for me.
I can do that. We had recommended if the board is inclined, meets the criteria laid out in the land use plan, a motion for approval of rezoning to the County Board of Commissioners to rezone approximately 2.24 acres that is riparian and lies between Cushing Avenue and Lock Lake from ag, general agriculture, and approximately a quarter of an acre in section 21 from R1, S2 to R2, S2, because the board feels it meets the criteria laid out in the land use plan and the town board approves.
That would be my motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Ken. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Mulberry seconds.
All right, I have a motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor by roll call, and Sean, can you list them off?
Jan,
Aye.
Charlie, Ken,
Gallagher votes aye.
and Pat.
Not coming through.
That's 4 ayes, Dan.
Okay, Pat and Charlie are not coming through to us, but Mal votes aye also, motion carries. Thank you. That's all you need.
In action on the CUP.
Okay,
And the second part of the motion would be to continue this to have the rezoning be acted on by the county board and the applicant to obtain the required information for the subdivision.
do I have somebody to make that motion?
The next meeting.
Charlie made that motion.
Do I have a second?
That motion.
All right, we got a motion made and seconded.
And I need a date. Continuation to, can you have your survey work done by December?
December 10th, yeah.
Okay, continuation to the next meeting would be the motion.
Jan, how do you vote? Pat? Charlie? Ken?
Votes aye.
Pat, are you there?
Yep, yes again.
Yes, again. Thank you. That's 4, Dan.
All right, motion carries, and we'll continue this until the December meeting.
And I was also told soil boring was required by December 10th also?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So what do we
Correct, you
do?
can contact our office, Stacy or myself, to discuss the rest of the information.
December 10th.
Yep.
So we're getting it surveyed and
Yeah.
everything?
Get a hold of either Stacy or Sean,
First.
probably tomorrow, and just ask them everything you need to have ready by the next
Well,
meeting.
she told me.
And how
It's-
about perk test too and all that?
Yep,
That's the
whatever.
same thing.
They'll go through it with you.
Yes, whenever Stacy went over with you,
Yeah.
but I would confirm with Stacy in the next.
So this is a yes for the next meeting.
Yes.
And we need it here at the office before the next meeting to review.
You need that to review?
Yeah.
Yep, okay,
We'll work through it.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we will work at getting the next applicant in, Mary Loger.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, the property is in Albion Township on Albion Lake. It's zoned agriculture. It's not in the land use plan. The request is to rezone from agriculture to R2A S2. So the Planning Commission must determine the especially suited for development, riparian and deep shore. The proposal of the rezoning is approved, would lay out 3 lots on the property. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
All right. Did you get the name, Terry, of who's on the phone?
I heard Paul Otto. Is Mary on?
Mary, yes. Okay. Paul, do you want to take it away, or the applicant have anything to add?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul Otto here. Yeah, we're asking for basically rezoning. Our intent is to put 2 lots in there based on the concept. They are all 6 acres or better, get a little bit better than 6.5 acres. The property is generally about, well, somewhere 10 to 20 feet above the lake level elevation, the field part. And then there's a slope down to the lake. Albion Lake is not necessarily a real recreational lake, if you will, more for geese and ducks and that type of a lake. And this use is consistent with the north side of the lake. There's a number of properties on the north that are similar in size. Some are a little larger, some are a little smaller, but similar in size to what we are asking for on this end of the lake. So I guess I will leave it at that, and if you have other questions, we can take those as they come.
All right. Sean, do we have anybody from the public?
I don't believe so. I had some inquiries, but I don't see anybody on. If somebody is present in the public on the WebEx that wants to speak to this item, please speak up.
Okay, does not sound that way. So, Jan, do you have any comments on this?
Are you talking to me, Dan?
Yes, you.
Yes, you, Jan.
What was the question?
Initial comments from the Planning Commission on the rezoning request.
The only comment that I would have is that I probably would, I don't recall ever being on a site inspection for this property.
We have not looked at this property, and our motion that was proposed wasn't necessarily meaning to skip over that step since it is a national environmental lake.
Well, I think we should have a site inspection. Because I have written in my notes after reviewing this that I was just unsure, and I'd like to
before taking action, have a look at the place.
All right, thank you, Jan. Charlie?
Mr. Chair, this is one where we'll have to twist Commissioner Malberg's arm here again, because it's not a water skiing and whatever lake, but I think that is land that would be suitable to that. And if Jan wants a site inspection, I would not be opposed to that.
Okay. Ken?
No comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Pat?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Charlie's not exactly right, but he has foreshadowed a question that I would have for Mr. Otto or for the owner. Mr. Otto, you and I have had this colloquy back and forth on other parcels as well. And the question for the board is whether this property is especially suited for residential development. Sounds as though we will have an opportunity likely to go out there and view it ourselves and maybe take that in deeper. But as a precursor to that, Mr. Otto, can you tell me why this one qualifies?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Yeah, you know, as we've discussed in the past, and I think a good example was Fountain Lake. The lake shore, what makes a lake specially suited? Everybody has a different opinion. The lake shore out on Fountain Lake was, 50 feet of cattails, but the views were really nice. I think you kind of have a similar situation here. You don't have as much cattails, but you've got an elevated building pad that looks up over the lake. Granted, there is a tree line there, but my clients actually, two of my clients are planning to build on the property. So, in my eyes, that says that the demand is there. There's a reason why they picked this land and picked this to try to go through with. So. I agree with you, it's hard to say, that if it's recreational and beach, that's one thing, but, I think we're getting to the point in the county where we're more talking about views and what's behind me, and will that always stay behind me like that, or will it be a different development, or will it be a bike track, or a field lot, or whatever else? So, that's my comments, I guess. My client may have some more reasons why this one makes more sense.
The reason we are asking for it is, one of my brothers and I are interested in building on it, and then Mom would still keep, this is our mom's property, part of the farm, so we grew up out there. Is it a swimming lake? Not unless you want to come out with beaches. So it's really for views, and that's really what we would like, and we're asking for the bigger parcels for the room, because we just want a little bit more space and a little bit more property.
Could I get her name?
Mary Loge.
So thanks for those comments. I always struggle with this provision and these sorts of requests, because at some point, if the question is there demand for it, do people like it? Well, then of course, people like all sorts of different things, and I've always just struggled to figure out some definition or understanding of especially suited for residential development that doesn't have the exception swallowing the rule. So I appreciate your comments. I'll look forward to seeing the property.
All right, thank you, Pat. And some of my comments are along those lines also, Pat. The portion that I struggle with this is it's not in the land use plan. I mean, it's riparian, so that's why it is able to do what we're doing. But it's agricultural land, and everything around that area is agricultural land. And, putting 3 more homes in, we end up with some of the same issues we just got done dealing with Mr. Ashwell's when he's got 40-acre parcel and more neighbors. So I too, I'm willing to go I know where the property is, I'm familiar with the property. I just question when it's not in the land use plan and it's all agricultural all the way around it. So, I guess those are my comments. Is there any other comments from the board, or does somebody want to make a motion?
Planning Commission, the question from the chair was, any more comments? Or did somebody want to make a motion, I would assume perhaps for a site inspection?
Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Felder. I would like to have I'll move to have a site inspection, please.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? There's no other discussion?
Date for continuation?
Do you want to continue it until the next meeting, Ken?
Yes, sir.
Jan?
Ken was a yes.
What was the question?
For,
What was the motion? I couldn't understand Dan.
okay. Can you take care of that, Sean?
To continue for a site inspection, correct, Dan?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yes, perhaps I will make, I second that. I vote yes.
Go ahead and Sean, take it, do the roll call.
So Jan voted yes, Pat?
Yes.
Charlie?
Both aye.
Ken? That's 4 ayes.
And Dan votes yes. Motion carries to continue in a site inspection. All right, we'll be moving on then to number 6 for Brad Paulman. Okay, and your name is?
My name is Scott Dolke. I'm with Civil Engineering on behalf of Brad Paulman.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think,
Are you at the meeting, Scott, or did you call in?
I'm at the meeting here.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
all right. Do we have everyone, Sean? Then you can take it away.
I believe, can we just ask, Brian Matzke, owner Brian Matzke, was also going to join online, I believe. Is he with us?
Are you there, Pete?
Yes, I'm here. I finally figured out how to unmute my phone. Sorry.
Okay, so everybody at this time could mute yourself until you're called on by the chair, that'd be appreciated. Tell me when you're ready, Mr. Chair.
We are ready, Sean, whenever you are.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Planning Commission, you may recall this property a few years ago. The Planning Commission rezoned the majority of the property to AR. There was discussion on that at that time. There's an existing agricultural lot owned by Mr. Matzke, and issues or potential issues with access to it and established driveway. And how over the years there was discussion of maybe a township road in a subdivision, or trying to cut the property up in lots. At this time, they are proposing to rezone the north portion of the property to R2 to allow for parcel A, a residential lot, to expand the Matzke property to be parcel B, and anything on that parcel that had been zoned to AR will need to be rezoned back to agriculture, to have an ag lot, and then to leave the remainder of the parcel zoned AR. The township is online, and the designer, the current owner, And the owner of this property is also online for any questions.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to it, or?
No, I think he explained it pretty well. It's fairly straightforward. I think it cleans up some property boundary issues that would be good to clean up, I think. So, no, I think everything was discussed here.
Okay. Any other of the applicants that are online want to comment?
Yes, Brad Bowman, I pretty much what everybody says. I mean, there was some encroachment issues besides Brian Matsky not having access to his property. There also was a legal access. Probably another part of the driveway was on the 24 acres that was, bought from Steve Cheney. So, and there was access to get down to the lake, the uses that pull all the dock and stuff that was on the other property, and so even a building was on the other property. So, considerable encroachment issue that really needed to get cleaned up, and this, this working this all with a neighbor, that was really good. We got that done. There, the lots is, that it fits now with the rest of it. It's got 300 by 300 area there, and even though it was ag residential, it hasn't been farmed probably 30 years. I mean, there's been grass on it, but I mean, the guy comes in and bales some grass once a year, but the topography there, it really, it isn't really ag land. It's like, and there's actually contiguous to probably like 12 different parcels. So it's, and across from the lake is Wild Marsh Golf Course. So, with the driveway going in, the company really works nice. That's a really nice lot. That the 4 acres to the north lot is a really, north of Brian's, it's really a nice lot. And the other one is is a large lot. It's, so that's all. That's what I wanted to, John did a good job of saying what we got here. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Township want to comment?
Steph, did you have input?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Okay, so the applicant did come before our township meeting on October 26th. And at the time that a decision was made by the township board, we were under the impression that it was zoned agricultural, not AR. So that was a miscommunication that happened at our meeting between the applicant and the town board. So the next day, after talking with the applicant and with Stacy at Planning and Zoning, I did agree that we would take this back in front of our township board on November 30th at our next meeting for them to take a look at it again. At our October 26th meeting, they did deny the request based on ag land because they were not under the impression that it was rezoned to AR. So is there any questions for me?
Does anyone on the board have any questions for the township?
Mr. Chair, not so much a question, Commissioner Burrow, just a comment though that it was Deb from the township, am I right?
Yes, Charlie.
Okay, thanks, Deb. No, and I hope you guys do reconsider this because this is an area where we just had a lot of disputes as far as access to the property and stuff, and I agree with Mr. Palmer that it would clear a lot of stuff up, so I hope the board does reconsider that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Anyone else from the board? Okay, if not, is there anyone else, Sean, that you have from the public or comment?
Did you have anything to add at this time, Brian?
No, I think everything's been said. I'd just be repeating what everybody else has said. It's straightened out some issues that we have with lots. I talked with Greg, I don't know if you remember this back in May, and he said, yeah, we got a deed that was recorded that doesn't comply with the zoning regulations, which was news to me, so I've been trying to get this straightened out for quite some time. I don't know what happened, but I think it seems to work well. Have a conforming lot, which I believe everyone is wanting going forward. I do think it's an appropriate use of property and is consistent with properties in the neighborhood. I've lived there for 18 years. Nobody background. You take some hay off it. It's pretty rough, but I don't know what else anybody could ever do with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question about process.
Okay,
For the township for Deb. I'm not sure if I'm clear, so the entire property is AR, and I want to remind the planning commission also, it's in the land use plan as AR. So on this north parcel, a decision will have to be made to further zoning it residential for a smaller lot, again, based on the riparian. And has the planning commission provided, has the township provided a response under both scenarios? That they thought it was ag and they want it left ag, and also understanding it's AR, and they're asking for an additional lot? Is the input the same from the township? Or are you wanting to revisit this at a township hearing?
That is Deb Euchre. At our meeting, we were under the impression it was an agricultural land. That is why a motion was made against the request.
Correct.
That is why, after talking with the applicant and Stacy, that we said I did agree that we put it back on the agenda for November so the board could relook at it, knowing the correct information that it's in AR and not agricultural land.
Okay.
How the board will make a motion, I do not control that, but I would like to bring it back before the township board so they are informed.
Thank you. So Mr. Chair, at this time, the township has a negative response, although maybe not formal because there's more information, but they do have it scheduled for a hearing and are requesting they're able to revisit and act on that to give our planning commission proper input.
okay, thank you, Sean. With that being said, how does the board want to proceed? In the past, we've always given the proper channels to get run through with the township, and being there, you know, they don't have all their information. I think it would be proper to send it back to the township.
Mr. Chair, this is Ken.
Yes, Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would like to continue this until the next December meeting so the applicant and township can once again consider the applicant's petition.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. This is Jan.
Motion made and seconded to continue to the December meeting so that the applicants can meet again with the township. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Burrow. The other thing too, and Deb, you can pass on to the board, because this, we would be also looking here, and Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's especially suited for the residential in the S2 zoning, and so it actually could have been done from ag as well, but I think it might be more palatable, being that it is AR with the township.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Mr. Chair? This is Jan. I appreciate Mr. Burrell's comment, but I think that it's sort of like leading, or expressing a view for the whole board, and I would like to just clarify that this is your opinion, not necessarily the opinion of the whole board, and you're directed to her.
And that's,
Chair,
and,
I think I said, I'm pretty sure I said that that was my opinion. The chair asked if we had any opinion, and that's what I just said was my opinion.
Yes, well, it sort of seemed like the last time you gave your opinion to her that you were giving her a directive that would imply the whole board shared your view. I just wanted to clarify that I have an open mind until we get the report back from the township board.
all right.
Towards that.
Thank you, Janice. Is there any other comments? If not, all those in favor of continuing this until the December meeting? Roll call. Janice?
Jan, how do you vote on continuing?
Yes.
Souther votes aye.
Pat? Aye. Charlie? That's 4 ayes, Dan.
Dan votes aye. Motion carries to continue until December. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe everybody's calling in on this next item, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Well, go ahead then.
All right, we'll start. Number 7 is USS Wales Solar LLC. Who do you have present, Sean?
Mr. Chair, anybody attending this item for the applicant or property owner, if you could identify yourself?
This is Colin Kobayashi with US Solar.
Thank you. Did you want me to introduce the item, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, why don't you please?
The property is in Monticello Township. It's zoned agriculture. It's in the land use plan for agriculture. We recently, a couple of years ago, had a solar farm on the property east of the road. I want to draw your attention that at this time the township has neither approved or denied the request, but they're requesting a site inspection where they're invited to by the planning commission, and we've normally done site inspections for our solar farms. I will turn it over to the applicant to describe the project in detail.
All right, thank you. Applicant?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to present our proposed project with you today. My name is Colin Kobayashi, and I'm a project developer with US Solar. I'm joined here with David Watts, our manager of development. US Solar is a small Minnesota-based team that develops, owns, and operates community solar gardens. Today I'm here to discuss our application for a 1 megawatt community solar garden on approximately 7.5 acres of the parcel owned by Jerry Wall. Not all solar is created equal, and we seek to seamlessly integrate the project into the community. In doing so, we aim to increase the tax base, support landowner rights, enhance nearby crop yields, and strengthen the local environment and wildlife. The solar panels we use are made of the same stuff as your cell phone in your pocket: silicon, glass, silver, and copper. There are no hazardous materials involved in the project whatsoever. Once operational, it involves no noticeable noise, traffic, odor, glare, dust, light, burden, vibration, etc. All signs of a good neighbor. The project, USS Quail Solar LLC, will generate enough electricity to power approximately 225 homes annually and interconnect directly to the existing distribution system of XL Energy on Icicle Avenue. Residents, businesses, and public entities in Wright County who pay an XL Energy bill may subscribe to a portion of the electricity generated and receive bill credits on their XL Energy bills. In this way, members of the community can receive a direct economic benefit from the project. Aside from the direct financial impact, the community will benefit from our private investment in pollinator-friendly habitat, which increases nearby crop yields and improves soil, water, and air quality. Stormwater runoff is decreased by 20% compared to row crops. Lastly, we will be paying for upgrades
to the local distribution infrastructure that serves the community, including the homes on Isle Avenue. We understand that the members of the community want to maintain the rural character. This project is different than the projects across Isle Avenue and the majority of the projects around the state in 4 key ways. One, we use single-axis trackers which track from east to west with the rising and setting of the sun. The panel height ranges from about 6 to 8 feet for normal daily operation. This is much shorter than the systems that are fixed, pointing south, which are often about 15 feet tall. 2, we use a farm field style fence with wooden posts and paved wire fence around the perimeter of the site. Our fence will not contain barbed wire chain link like many solar projects have. 3, we have proposed 2 rows of landscape screening to serve as a visual buffer to the nearest neighbor. These trees were recommended by the DNR and have been used in recent projects in other counties. 4, most importantly, the nearest neighbor, not including the landowner, is approximately 600 feet away from the solar garden's fence. Construction of the solar garden is a lot simpler than people realize. Galvanized steel I-beams are driven into the ground and the racking sits on top of the I-beams. Solar panels clip into the racks. There are no concrete footings, permanent structures, or buildings. But we have submitted supplemental information about the equipment and racking systems to help clarify the questions about installation. And we're glad to help answer any additional questions you might have about this. The most notable phase of construction is the pile driving, which is typically completed in a day and a half. All construction activity is generally completed in about 7 weeks. After construction, you can expect 1 pickup truck to visit the site about 4 times per year. We will maintain the existing drainage patterns of this parcel, minimizing impact to the surrounding land. With recent record-breaking years of precipitation, it is important to have a thorough drainage plan to avoid flooding and runoff. A preliminary drainage plan has been included in the set-aside plans. We completed a desktop and field wetland delineation, which confirmed there are no wetlands within the project area. And due to the large parcel size and the existing topography, the only drainage area worth noting is to the north of the project. As such, we have a permanent infiltration basin of 2,613 cubic feet along the northern side of the project to prevent runoff. We will work with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and Wright County to obtain a stormwater pollution prevention plan. The native perennial vegetation proposed for this project has long root depths, which reduces runoff compared to row crops by 23%. In addition to the following, all state and federal rules, we will work closely with Wright County along the way. We understand that site maintenance is an important factor for the township, county, and surrounding community. USS Quail Solar LLC partners with Minnesota-based vegetation experts like Natural Resource Services, who will install the vegetation and landscape screening and control for noxious weeds throughout the life of the project. We are happy to discuss a condition that addresses site maintenance standards to mitigate concerns. Next, I would like to respond to comments from the community. I think it's very important for the public to understand the project. Following facts and context around the project should resolve all concerns raised by the community. The first is addressing the letter by Christine and Chad Bennett. Glare, the whole point of solar panels is to absorb light and not reflect it. The solar panels we use have an anti-reflective coating as a result, and they produce less glare than grass or asphalt. Since our solar panels track the sun, panels usually face the sky, so you will not see or experience any glare. Additionally, given the topography and project location, this will not be visible from County Road 37. Next concern was the protected wetlands. As we said before, we identified known protected biological resources, habitats, or wetlands within the project premises. This project does not and cannot disrupt those protected wetlands located on other parcels. 3 was property value. In our application, we studied 3 different sources about solar and their effects on nearby property value. All available data finds no negative impacts to property values of residential homes or agricultural land adjacent or near a solar array. This fact has been confirmed by decisions in the Minnesota Court of Appeals. Number 4 was water runoff. Because of the infiltration basins and long root depths from the perennial vegetation, with the runoff will actually decrease. We will improve the water quality through it pond. Further, unlike row crops, we do not use chemicals that can be harmful to local water quality. 5, hazardous panels. References to hazardous materials in solar come from thin film solar modules, which sometimes contain cadmium. We don't use thin film solar modules. We exclusively use Tier 1 solar panels. The materials that comprise Tier 1 solar panels are the same materials that comprise a cell phone, glass, silicon, silver, and aluminum. All the materials used in solar garden are stable and fully contained. There is no pollution of the air, groundwater, or surface area of the site which they sit. Lastly, the concern was about decommissioning, and the county has a 30-year time limit on this permit. Another condition of this permit and the developer's agreement will be securing a financial decommissioning treaty. The concerns from the next letter from Sarah Curtis are similar to the previous concerns, so I will just address these briefly. First concern was about glare and traffic. Again, our panels have an anti-reflective coating to reduce glare. The project is located approximately 2,200 feet away from the traffic that would occur on County Road 37. The next concern was the nearby wetlands. As discussed previously, this project will not disrupt the protected wetlands or migrate birds. 3 was property value. Again, all available data finds no negative impacts to property values of residential homes and agricultural land adjacent to or nearby a solar array. Multiple studies confirming this fact were included in the CUP application. 4 was flooding. And again, this project will reduce runoff to adjacent parcels. The pollinator-friendly habitat will increase water quality and have less runoff than traditional row crop agriculture. This is a requirement of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. The SWIP is a permit granted by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. In conclusion, we comply with all ordinance requirements and have done everything possible to bring this to the community without harming its rural character. We understand that a site inspection is typical, and we are happy to accommodate that. After the completion of a site inspection, we respectfully request the approval of CUP from the Planning Commission. We would like to open for questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sean, do you have anyone from the public?
I'm not seeing anybody signed in, but if there is somebody from the public wanting to speak to the solar project, now's your opportunity.
Okay. Is there anyone from the board that would like to comment, or would we prefer to have a site inspection first before we go with any further comments?
Commissioner, this is Greg with the County Attorney's Office. If I could just make a brief comment, just to the applicants. I reviewed the surety or the security proposal, the amount that they put forward with their highway engineer, and our engineer was wondering if you could break down the expenses for them so that they can get a better handle on what the expenses are for their estimate and for their approval process that they have to do at their ordinance.
Mr. Chair, yes, that's definitely something that we can do to take care of. We can take a look at that with my team and try to send over that information as soon as possible, probably before that site inspection happens.
Okay, thank you. Is that good, Greg?
Mr. Chair, that's it for me. Thank
All right.
you.
Charlie?
Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ken.
This is Ken. This is more curiosity than anything. I have a question for the applicant. Mr. Kobayashi, you had mentioned that the current customers of Excel may benefit from this addition to the solar industry. Now, you said the customers may subscribe, and this is just to satisfy my own curiosity. Excel is not my provider, by the way, but just kind of curious, how does that work for the Excel customers where they subscribe to something and get a break on their electric bills? Could you please, in brief, explain that?
Absolutely, yes. So Excel has this program through the state in which they offer discounts essentially to their Excel customers who would subscribe to energy from a solar company like ours. So if you're a customer who is subscribing to that energy as a residential homeowner, you would get a bill credit for the amount that you're subscribed to. So generally you would receive a discount of about penny per kilowatt hour of energy that you use for the year. So for normal homeowners, you could save $100 or a couple hundreds of dollars depending on how much energy you use. So it's kind of a cool program and incentivizes people to support clean energy in the projects.
At no cost to the customer, is that correct?
So they pay a subscription fee to us, but the difference that they would be seeing is the savings because on their Excel energy bill, they'll get a bill credit. So the difference between those is going to be their cost savings. So yes, you are paying for something, but you actually end up saving, like I said, close to $1 per kilowatt hour.
Thank you for my indulgence. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Charlie.
To add on that a little bit, that conversation, Jim, my nephew I know subscribes to the one here in Waverly, and I think he said he saves about $15 a month. So it's not huge, but he said it's better than, nothing, I guess. But I just wanted to echo what Colin said. We have right across from my farm, I'm probably the only person on the board here that's familiar with the solar in that aspect. And when they first put it up, I mean, it was a little bit of hell with this is a 40-acre field, not just a 7-acre. So it probably took a month of pounding and driving in the pylons and stuff like that. But right now, I tell you, I wouldn't give up those neighbors for anything. I've been growing more and more fond of them all the time, and now I'm almost getting to the point where I just love them. I'm not going to have a dirt bike track next door. I'm not going to have an residential park for the rest of my lifetime. I'm going to have these quiet neighbors out there. Like Colin said, I might see a truck out there. This is a bigger field, so a bigger solar development. I might see a truck out there once a month, maybe. And so, no, they're just the best neighbors I've ever had.
Watch out if a tornado comes through, Charlie.
Hopefully, they take the other direction.
Okay.
All right, anyone else that would like to comment from the board? If not, does somebody have a motion for a site inspection potentially and continue till December?
For the planning commission, the chair is asking, does somebody have a motion for perhaps continuation to December for a site inspection?
Yes, this is Jan. I make a motion to continue the hearing for the site inspection and to continue this at the December meeting.
Bravo, second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote. Sean, do you want to go through it?
Ken?
Votes yes.
Charlie? Pat? Jan?
Yes.
That's 4 ayes, Mr. Chair.
All right, motion carries to have a site inspection and continue until December. Thank you. Motion carries. So, at the end of the meeting, we'll get together and set a site inspection for the applicant, and then the applicant can call into the office and find out when that was set at. Number 8, is William Fisher, and Terry is calling them in right now.
I believe everybody is online for this one too, Mr. Chair. We can wait a second though.
Mr. Fisher is here present at the boardroom.
I'm sorry. So I think everybody else except for Mr. Fisher is online.
Okay. Let me know when you have things ready, Sean.
Are you ready?
Yeah, Mr. Fisher's at the table. Do you want to give your name?
It's Bill Fisher.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
Anybody on the WebEx meeting for Mr. Fisher's request, if you could identify yourself, please, for the record.
Zach Armstrong. I am the attorney for Mr. Matthew Stephens, the neighbor to Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. Is there a Mr. Weber in attendance? I'm showing you as muted.
Sorry about that, Sean. I announced myself, but yes, I was muted.
That's fine. I believe that's everybody from the site plan on Mr. Fisher, right? You're representing this for him?
Correct, I'm the civil engineer representing Mr. Fisher.
Along with Mr. Fisher, who's in attendance. So, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, let me get to the slide here. You've done a site inspection on this property and had previous conditional use permits for the land alteration. At the previous meeting that extended the deadline to do the previous CUP, the question was asked at what point would there be a change in the plan that would require another conditional use permit. Based on this plan being substantially different and needing a new wetland decision, staff felt it was prudent to have the Planning Commission re-review this land alteration and this plan. So once work commences, there would not be any questions from any Lake Association's neighbors or township. So what is in front of you today is a new engineered designed stormwater land alteration plan. So a house can be built on the property and properly convey, mitigate, store stormwater, and prevent any flooding on the property or nearby properties. But with that, I'll turn it over to the engineer to describe this plan.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Yes, thank you, John. So the plan is very similar to what was originally brought in 2018. That had a culvert directing stormwater from the eastern property to the western shores of Lake Charlotte. We had an additional survey done in 2019 that identified that the neighboring culvert was lower than what was shown on our previous survey, and that sort of made the culvert not a viable solution. We went through a few rounds with Mr. Stephens and his engineers and came up with a solution that's before you now, that is to install a concrete swale to a treatment measure, the sedimentation basin in the middle of the property, and then overflowing over to the north at Lake Charlotte. It has been before Wright County Soil and Water, and the treatment measure has been approved already.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to comment from the public?
This is Zach Armstrong.
Go ahead.
Representing Stephens. Oh, you just make a brief comment. As far as the plans go, the major piece that Mr. Stephens wanted me to convey today was that we want, similar to the conditions that were placed on the prior application, when this was previously built, in 2018 or 2019, the condition that this drainage function be installed and constructed prior to Mr. Fisher's property, Mr. Fisher's home being constructed. We would ask for that same or similar condition being placed here, just so that to ensure that the system is installed correctly and as these plans are shown prior to the home being built. As what happened last time, as the as-built survey demonstrated, after the prior system was built, the system was installed roughly a half foot, 8 inches higher than what was initially proposed. And given the narrow room for any, kind of mistakes, this area, it is low and there's not a whole lot of room for error. It's very important to have this as built, as the plans show prior to the home being constructed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment from the public?
Bill Fisher.
Go ahead.
With this design now, we really can't, we have a footing for that wall that's creating the swale. And that footing and the footing for the house, which has to be deeper than the footing on that swale wall, we need to do them all at the same time with the foundation of the home. Because if we do that first and then we dig to do, it's going to fall over. So I don't know if there's something where we're restricted, where we can't get a framing inspection until we have the swale as built, okayed through soil and water, or if something like that can be done. But yeah, the old system that's in there, and it wasn't like it's 8 inches higher. I'm about 3-4 inches higher than what, and it's because some of the grades were, I don't know if they were done properly back when or whatever, and Matthew's high, that 4 inches or what have you, and all this stems from the fact that somehow Matt built a house next door to me with no land alteration permit and no engineering on his stormwater, and now he's going to be wanting to extend that culvert and everything to the property line. And I just asked that the county requires him to get a permit, that he should have had this stuff originally. And he should have the proper engineering done. He should have a proper emergency swale on his east line. And none of these things were done. And all the water that used to go to the east and wipe out his beach 3 times is all being diverted to me. I mean, it used to be a 14-inch or 15-inch culvert there diverting onto me. Now it's a 24. And that hasn't even been engineered or anything. And I mean, I've been held to do all these things, and I just think, Matthew's lot needs to be addressed. I mean, he did a whole land alteration, built it up 3 feet. It was supposed to be a crawl space, and he went to a slab on grade. He didn't put it at the right elevation. His culvert is not installed even the way it was sketched and supposedly approved by Sean. There's all these things that are mismatched over there, and now I'm paying the price over and over again on my lot.
Thank you. Sean, is there any other ones that would like to comment that you have online?
I don't see anybody else.
Okay. We'll go to the board members.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Armstrong is wanting to respond.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Armstrong.
Just briefly, Mr. Stephens received all appropriate permitting, permissions and everything to build his home. He did that, and he went through this process, back then, and there was no, he did everything right, when he built his home and constructed it, roughly 8 years ago.
Well, we have an as-built now.
Wait, Bill. Go ahead, Mr. Armstrong.
I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, I'd just like to comment that we have an as-built of the current elevations on Matt's lot, and we have plats of before his build, and he would have needed a land alteration permit to do what he did. So he didn't have the proper permitting, and I never had the opportunity to come before the board to state anything on that, as Matt has always had on my situation.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from the board that would like to start?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Charlie?
I think what Mr. Fisher's deal about the doing it so that we're not building the house on the framing permit until this project's done. But it's been looked at by stormwater and engineered, and I think it's time that we can just put this behind us and move on. I understand, the concerns that Bill was talking about with the, where you almost got to do it together. And I think that would be acceptable to me. And then just hold off on the framing to make sure that this is done before the house is actually built. And I guess with that, I would like to direct staff to come back with a proposed motion to that extent, and we can vote on it next December, if that's okay.
Are you making that as a motion, Charlie?
I would, Mr. Chair.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Do I have a second to the motion?
For the planning commission, there's a motion on the floor to continue this item for a motion consistent with your discussion here, specifically having the work done concurrently, the land alteration, the foundation, and the spillway wall for the next meeting.
Do I have a second?
Is it procedurally proper for me to ask a question? This is Pat.
I need a second first, and then we can discuss.
Yeah. I'll second it for the sake of being able to ask my question, then how's that?
That works, Pat. Now, discussion. What do you have?
Yes, please. Call me ignorant on this one, Sean, but can you restate or clarify what you just said about the concurrently piece?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, the previous project perhaps lent itself more to doing the land alteration and the stormwater control and then building the house. The engineer and the applicant is representing, because of the changes and the closeness of these stormwater controls, this wall and the foundation of the house itself, they need to be done in tandem. In other words, they need a building permit to be able to start building the house foundation when they're doing the stormwater project.
And sorry, maybe I'm deaf on this. What does that have to do with us?
The previous CUP required, had a condition that the stormwater project be completed first and it has built submitted.
Thank you.
Before the house could be built.
Thank you.
Because of the conflict, we're trying to solve this in a creative way with the planning commission to make sure both things get done.
Is that clarified for
Do we
you?
have anything in our record that, I mean, I've read through the memo that compares or that calls out the revisions. Is the plan, I don't know, the plan meets whatever the minimum thresholds and standards are, right?
It's been engineered and stamped as such.
And the same was true last time, even though it turned out it wasn't adequate, is that right?
Well, that maybe had more to do with the initial attempt at starting it and then finding out more things about the surrounding area. My comment, for what it's worth, I think this plan, which was also under soil and water review and re-engineered, probably addresses things in a better manner than the first plan.
That good, Pat?
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And Sean, can you run a roll call for me, please?
Jan?
No.
Was that a no, Jan?
That was a no.
Ken? Aye. Charlie? Pat? That was 3 ayes and 1
And
no, Dan, with
Dan-
Dan being the no.
Dan being yes, so motion carries with Jan, no. So we'll continue this until the December meeting, and staff will work on a motion for approval. All right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Now site inspection.
All right, we need to set time and a date for our site inspections for the solar panels and the other 2 properties. When are people available? Sean, can you try to relay it?
I'm sorry. We're looking for a site inspection date. Jan, Ken, Charlie, Pat, maybe some ideas when they're available or not good dates.
I probably would like it to be the first part of the week. Rather than the last part of the week. And right now,
Do you,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
this is Ken. Could you relate to me what Jan just said?
I think Jan was looking for the first part of the week. I don't know if we have a particular week, but I got the impression the start of the week is better.
yeah, that's correct. And sooner the later, probably.
So the start of next week is already the 16th. We have we have a 3-day requirement, Greg?
The open meeting law, Sean, we have a 3-day posting requirement.
And then the following week is Thanksgiving week. The start of the week would be before Thanksgiving, of course.
That would be all right with me, or the week after Thanksgiving would be all right too.
How about Thursday the 19th?
It's later in the week. I'm not sure if that works for Jan.
Which was the date, Sean?
Thursday the 19th, next Thursday, a week from today.
No, that won't work.
How about something like December 1st? The Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah, that's good.
Dan said yes. How about everyone else? Pat?
I'm totally filled with meetings on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. Tuesday. Monday, the 30th?
That's fine with me.
Charlie?
That works.
Pat?
That appears to work.
Ken?
Well, it all depends what time of day. For you, I got something going on in the morning.
Afternoon, 1 o'clock at the site or at the courthouse?
Yeah, 1 o'clock at the courthouse on the 30th, I believe will be fine.
I vote for that.
I made a motion to have the site inspection on the 30th, meet at the courthouse at 1 p.m.
Somebody make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Morale will second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, roll call, aye.
Dan voted aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Charlie?
Charlie votes aye.
And Pat?
All right, we'll have a site inspection on the 30th at 1 p.m. Anything else that we need to address, Sean?
I think we're good.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
That was a quick
All right, do I have a second from somebody?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.